Education Department, Government of Odisha. Dr. Mishra has been awarded by the Kalevala Institute, Turku, Finland, for his translation of the Finnish epic Kalevala. Raghunath Shah Award for his lifetime contribution to tribal literature, Sahitya Akademi Awards, among others. He is currently a member of the Language Development Board of Sahitya Akademi. हमारे बीच हैं श्री M. Mani Methi. Please welcome our chair. श्री M. Mani Methi, आप मणिपुर विश्वविद्यालय इम्फाल में मानविकी के डीन तथा अंग्रेजी के पूर्व प्रोफेसर रह चुके हैं। आप भारतीय लोक कथा कांग्रेस के अध्यक्ष, लोक कथा अनुसंधान अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सोसाइटी के सदस्य तथा लोक कथा सोसाइटी एवं साहित्यिक अनुसंधान के अध्यक्ष। श्री S. Nagamalleshwar Rao. Shri S. Nagamalleshwar Rao is a noted Telugu poet and critic. He has been Senior Research Fellow at Department of Telugu, School of Humanities, University of Hyderabad. He has worked as a lecturer in different colleges and also as a guest faculty, teaching Telugu language and literature at Telugu University and Inadu School of Journalism. Presently, he is working with All India Radio as news reader cum translator. साहित्य अकादमी की ओर से हम माननीय अध्यक्ष और पैनलिस्ट को सम्मानित करना चाहेंगे। मैं श्री अजय शर्मा जी से निवेदन करती हूँ कि आप कृपया मंच पर उपस्थित पैनलिस्ट का अभिनंदन करें। आपका बहुत धन्यवाद। I'd just like to make one little observation in the beginning. We have 1 hour for this session, and I think that's enough time since there are just 3 of us here. And 1:30 we should conclude this session so that we stay in time with all other sessions also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mamta ji, Azna ji, and dear friend Professor Mani Methi, Nagamalleshwar Rao from Andhra Pradesh. Mani Methi is from Bihar. This session is dedicated to oral epics. All the audiences are here. This is the theme, but I think that epics are always limited to the senior people of the world. Epics are not popular like folk songs. So, what are the availability of the audiences? That does not matter. It matters that what the topic is, how the topic is. Most important in terms of understanding Indian history, culture, and literature. मैं दोनों चीज कहूँगा, हिंदी and English both. But here I want to say that there are 2 veteran scholars. We have 2 attended here. One is Professor Moli Kaushal, who is a Folklore Fellow of Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts. He could not come out. Another is Professor Bhagwan Das Patel from Gujarat, Ahmedabad, because of his health issue. He is now 82. But he has written the Biloni Mahabharata and Ram Sitoni Bharata. This is Gujarati, in Mili Bhasha, and he has translated it in Gujarati. That is a commendable work he has done. And yeah, before just I start this, within 3 to 4 minutes, I will tell about what is oral epics. हमारे देश में रामायण और महाभारत और हरिवंश और पुराण और काव्य को ही ज्यादा काव्य माना जाता है, इतिहास और पुराण माना जाता है, लेकिन ये लिखित है। लिखित जब हुआ तो लिखित को ही मान्यता दिया गया और जब कथित को कभी मान्यता नहीं दिया गया। और हमारे देश का जो सामाजिक व्यवस्था है ये 4 चीज पर आधारित है। एक है कुलाचार, दूसरा है लोकाचार। कुलाचार जैसे कि गोंड है, संताली है, भीली है, राजपूत है, ये लोग अपने अपने कुलाचार को लेके अपना संस्कृति बना देते हैं। कुलाचार इज लिमिटेड टू देयर होम कल्चर। होम कल्चर रीति था, उसको कुलाचार कहते हैं। देन कम्स लोकाचार, combination of कुलस, 3-4 जाति मिलकर 3 to 4 ethnic groups constitute a village, constitute a locality, and the culture and the tradition they follow there is called lokachar. Then comes desachar. In Indian terminology, desachar. For instance, if I give one example of this kulachar, desachar, lokachar, and shistachar, it will be very evident to you. Let us take Rajasthan. Rajasthan is a vast state. In that Rajasthan, there is a community called Wagdi. The Wagdi people have their own kulachar. When the Wagdi, Bhil and Meena join together, they constitute the lokachar. That locality is the lokachar. I mean, when it comes to Udaipur area, ये रियासत को जब चला आता है, तो वहाँ एक देशाचार बनता है। और ऐसे अगर 7-8 राज घराना मिलकर देशाचार मिलाने से एक शिष्टाचार बनता है, और वही शिष्टाचार भारत का जो सांस्कृतिक ज्ञान है, और जो भारत के जो ज्ञान व्यवस्था है, उसका प्रतिफलन है। So Ganga is not one. Ganga, there are 16 Gangas in this country. हम तो गंगा को एक ही मानते हैं, लेकिन पश्चिम उड़ीसा में कलाहांडी में 16 गंगा, 16 सिस्टर्स मानते हैं। And that 16 sisters have come from the Sanskrit text. कि गंगे ची जमुने चैत्र गोदावरी सरस्वती। तो टोटल नदी का नाम लोग नहीं ले सकते, 16 नदी का नाम, but 16 sisters of Ganga is very well embedded in the collective mind of the people. So जो जितना भी काव्य और पुराण लिखा गया है, उसका मौखिकता भी है। अभी आज लास्ट 100 साल से सारे दुनिया में लोक काव्य के ऊपर जितना काम हुआ है, आप कहीं भी जाइए, आप कहीं भी जाइए, बलूचिस्तान जाइए, कजाकिस्तान जाइए, आप यूगोस्लाविया, फिनलैंड, सारे जगह में लोक काव्य। फिनलैंड में काले वाला लोक काव्य है। इधर आप अगर किर्गिस्तान आते हैं तो वहाँ मनास नाम का एक लोक काव्य है। आप तिब्बत जाते हैं तो तिब्बत में किंग गेसर, एपिक ऑफ किंग गेसर नाम, जैसे हमारा रामायण है, उनका किंग गेसर है। ऐसे आप मेसोपोटामिया में भी आप किंग ऑफ गिलगामेश, द एपिक ऑफ गिलगामेश नाम का 5500 साल का पुराना महाकाव्य पत्थर मिट्टी में लिखा गया था, और आज उसी महाकाव्य को भी कविता के रूप में दिया जाता है। इसके बाद आते हैं ओडिसी एंड इलियड। ये दोनों जो काव्य लिखा, तो ये 1920-30 में मिल्मन पैरी और अल्बर्ट पी लॉर्ड नाम का 2 आदमी, ये लोग कहा कि दिस रिटन डॉक्यूमेंट इज इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय द ओरलिटी। ये मौखिक था, पहले सभ्यता मौखिक था, the civilization was oral, and when the orality was put into written, that time the influence of the patterns of orality, the functions of orality, the styles, symbols and similes of orality has influenced the written one. Written होने के बाद तो ऐसा अलग हो गया, यही बात नहीं है, but all these oral traditions have deeply influenced in the construction of sentences, construction of imagination and creativity in literature. Therefore, the idea is that the artificial division of oral and written, ये जो मौखिक और कथित का एक लिखित का एक जो कृत्रिम बाउंड्री है, सीमा रेखा है, वो सच नहीं है। साहित्य और भारत, इंडिया is a country where orality prevails upon written and technology. You have a lot of technology now, but you cannot avoid orality. You may have thousands and lakhs of books, but you cannot avoid orality. इस कारण क्या होता था, रामायण महाभारत और भागवत को एक पंडा पढ़ता था उड़ीसा में, और 500 लोग सुनते थे, और सुनने के बाद वो बन जाता था, ज्ञान बन जाता था। So when it is written, it is read out, and the function of that Purana or Bhagavata is to give knowledge to the people. क्यों लोग सुनना क्यों चाहते थे? हमारा तो शास्त्र में है चतुर्वर्ग फल प्राप्ति के लिए धर्म अर्थ काम और मोक्ष, बट लोग समाज में मोक्ष को उतना मान्यता नहीं दी, धर्म को नहीं दिया। क्या दिया? धर्म और मोक्ष ये काम और अर्थ में नहीं दिया। चतुर्वर्ग में से काम और अर्थ, प्रोजेनी एंड प्रोडक्शन, ये दो चीज में ज्यादा ध्यान दिया था। अभी जो सिंगर कम्युनिटी के बारे में, जैसे छांदोग्य उपनिषद से शुरू करके अभी तक जो सिंगर कम्युनिटी है, उन लोग बहुत कुछ इसको सूत्र कहते थे, चारण कहते थे, भाटा कहते थे, और अभी भी हमारा जो स्टोरी टेलर कहते हैं मॉडर्न टाइम्स में, ओरल एपिक सिंगर्स कहते हैं। आप मध्य प्रदेश को जाइए, कोरापुट जाइए, काफी जगह में ऐसे ओरल सिंगर्स हैं। They do not know the classical theory of rasa, no theory of Alankar Shastra, but the amount of poetry they used to sing about the Mahabharata and Ramayana is striking similarities with the theory of Dandi's Alankar Shastra. I will tell you later on. लेकिन ये लोक काव्य लास्ट 40 साल से यूरोप के, अमेरिका के एक ग्रुप और फिनलैंड के तो साउथ इंडिया में ज्यादा काम किया और उत्तर प्रदेश में, राजस्थान में ज्यादा काम किया। ये जो लोक काव्य है साहित्य, इसका 4 विधाएं हैं। एक तो मौखिकता है, दूसरा इसको पढ़ के सुनाना, तीसरा चित्र के जरिए। आप देखते हैं बाबू जी का फट जो है राजस्थान में, वहां लंबा मीटर तक काव्य को लिखा जाता है चित्र के जरिए, तो उसको फट कहते हैं, बाबू जी का फट कहते हैं। और उसके बाद आता है परफॉर्मेंस, नाटक, डांस के जरिए हो या ड्रामा के जरिए हो, सिर्फ काव्य पुराण को अभिनय में परिणत करना और दिखाना। तो इसका मतलब होता है कि साहित्य बोलने से केवल किताब नहीं है, साहित्य बोलने से ओरल लिटरेचर है, साहित्य बोलने से विजुअल लिटरेचर है, साहित्य बोलने से आपका पढ़कर सुनाना है। 95 लोग पाठ नहीं पढ़े हैं और 5 लोग पढ़े हैं। It is the duty of those 5 people to allow the people to listen the Kavya and Purana in our Indian society. इसलिए कहा गया है कि भारतीय साहित्य साइक्लिक है, चक्रीय है। ओरल, रिटन एंड ओरल, ये घूमता रहता है। कोई ओरल सुन के उसको रिटन कर दिया, लिखित कर दिया, और कोई लिखित को फिर से कथित कर दिया। ऐसा ही चक्र घूमता रहता है काल के आधार पर। और सिंगर कम्युनिटी म्यूजिक इंस्ट्रूमेंट बजाते हैं, कोई पूजा पाठ में गाते हैं और बिना पूजा पाठ में भी गाते हैं। सो आई विल नॉट टेक मच टाइम ऑन दिस। ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ द साहित्य अकेडमी, I am really thankful that Mr. Nagmali Rao and Mr. Mani Mehta have agreed to read their paper. We have very little time, so I request them to speak 15 minutes each, and after that, a little bit of whatever time is available to me, that does not matter. Please, Dr. Mani Mehta, Professor Mehta. Okay, so the introduction is already given. So please.
First of all, I would like to thank Sahitya Academy, New Delhi, and the Ministry of Culture for inviting me to be part of this session and also for this program. So this is my respected friend, Professor Mahendra, and also another friend, Maleshwar Rao from Hyderabad, and the distinguished audience. In fact, after Professor Mahendra's long speech on the oral epics of India, and also it touched upon some of the epics of the world, I even thought that I may not have much to say on these epics, and, but still I would like to say a few more words. And this very title of the or theme of the session, that is oral epics in unrecognized languages. We all know the implication behind this, that there is a vast subcontinent, and it is a multilingual and multicultural country with so many people, more than 136 millions of, crores of people, and more than 500 languages, So it would be a very, very vast and difficult area for anybody to do justice to this kind of topic in such a very short time. And the topic is very amorphous, and in spite of that, we would like to do something on this. I would like to say that we are all very much well aware of the existence of so many epics in India and in the world. India has personally these two epics, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. They have been existing in our midst as part of our life and culture for more than 2,000 years. And it is almost contemporaneous with the epics of Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey. Some of the scholars, even in India, they say that our epics are older than the Greek epics. Epics were written in the 8th century BC, and in their epics, Western scholars and also some scholars say that they were written between 300 years BC to 300 years AD. So we all know that epics are derived from traditional cultures where birds and singers of tales, they were singing songs praising the powerful heroes and heroines in the past, and such stories have grown over the generations, and such stories were sung because those people did not know how to write these epics. This is one important fact that we have gathered when we do research in this area. And although we may say that yes, there are written epics, for example, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, they have been in written versions, and also in many other, I could mention some of this. He has mentioned Gilgamesh, and also we can say that Jason de Roland of France, and then Cid of Spain, and also the German folk epic that is Nibelungenlied. These are also, and the Old English Beowulf, they are in written forms. They are available in that sense. They have derived from oral traditions. We still put them under the category folk epic or oral epic, and they cannot be equated with Milton's Paradise Lost or Virgin's Aeneid and the Dante's Inferno. This is a fact, and we know all these differences. And say folk epics are distinguished from literary epics by virtue of their being, say, in existence in oral form, and then the form and the structure of such epics, and then oral transmission, anonymity. These are some of the say characteristics of oral epics in the old world. My friend also said that even though written epics are there, literary epics, I should say, they are influenced by Homer's epics because Homer is considered to be the giver of the epic characters. I should just say that Homeric paradigm cannot be piloted in any culture by any epic because formulaic expressions, epic machinery, epic similes, epic catalogs, epic epithets, repetitions, flashback techniques, and so on. So all these were given by Homer. Milton, before he wrote his Paradise Lost, he was reading Homer's epics very meticulously, and he imitated the form structure of these two epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey. So this is a fact that I would like to say here, emphasize here. And then I have already mentioned that in the case of India, since it is a vast country and also so many cultures are there in India, innumerable we can say. Even in the Northeast, how many folk communities are here and how many languages are there? It cannot be, it is not possible for us to count all of them. But I should also say that in this connection, I would like to emphasize and to draw your kind attention to the existence of a Manipuri folk epic. That is, it may not be, it is Manipuri language is recognized by the Sahitya Academy in 1992. But even then, Manipuri language is not known, Manipuri culture is not known, although superficially many people know about these things. Many of these cultural elements that with which we have been living, many people do not know. And many people, I think, in India do not know that we have one very, very great folk epic that is called Khamba Thwaibi. Khamba is the name of the hero and Thwaibi is the name of the heroine. And this is so big that it was written in written publication, our written version was published in 1946. It is completely based on the singing style of this epic. This epic was it originated. We believe, and our research says that it derived from our culture in the 11th century or latest by 12th century AD. And through so many, through these generations, through these centuries, it has been growing, it has been expanding, and the whole task of expansion and then development of the epic was the responsibility of our very, very well-trained professional singers. In Manipur, there is, we have very professional singers, and even in the royal court, we have Pena. Pena is an ancient musical instrument of the Meiteis. And these Pena singers, they are in fact the original singers of this epic. And its full development could be seen in the 19th century. In the 19th century, and after that, no sense has been made, I think, and I can understand from my own research. And it is so big that it has more than 34,000 lines. Just before I came to this place, I counted again the verses. It has 34,266 lines, verses, and it has 43 cantos. The writer of this, the poet who wrote this is one, he's an Anganghal. He passed away in 1942 before the publication of this epic. But even that does not mean that this is a literary epic. Whatever he wrote was 100% he depended on the verbatim reproduction of the epic singing done by his teacher, one Sunkham Manik Singh. He was a very, very great as a singer of this epic in the royal court. And he recently he went there, and then one full week after that he rewrote this epic in versified form. And there is no sense at all from the oral epic or the oral say poem that has been sung, and between this and the oral poem of the epic, no sense, no difference. So epic singing style was in fact that vanished in the 19th century in Europe completely. But still, we are very lucky that in India we still have epic singing traditions in many parts of the country. The Ramayana has been sung in many places, and the Ramayana has been, not only Ramayana has been sung, Ramayana has been sung in many, many different forms, in many, many different variants. In our place in Assam, for example, we have different forms of Ramayana. We have different variants of the Ramayana. That is very different from the original text that we find. And the same is the case with the Mahabharata also. I will be dwelling on this aspect, especially when I come to the northeast part of this paper. So, yes, I will just, I have already mentioned this folk epic in Manipur, and much has been said about this, and whatever research we can do still is that we have to collect this epic from different singers, because the number of singers is every day decreasing, because all these singers belong to the old generation, and they are dying every day. We don't have, I think, more than 5 or 6 persons today, including the younger people. Very recently, we have lost 1 month or 2 months back, and so we don't have now many who can sing this epic from start to finish. So that is one tragedy we have, and the same is the case for the whole country, I think, because although we have so many performers in India as regards the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, we also may not find who are very, very skilled singers. Although we can see the Ramayana and the Mahabharata in many different art forms, for example, not only in the oral traditional form, but in drama, in ballet, and in many other forms of expression. So this is one thing that can be highlighted, and still we, in order to keep and preserve this tradition, we need to make full documentation. Whatever we are going to depend on oral tradition, we see differences, variations, and the varied versions. So therefore, Ramayana has so many Ramayanas. Ramayana that is found here in the western part, in the southern part, in the northern part, in the northeastern part, they are all very, very different, although the skeleton is the same. And then the Ramayana that is found in Thailand, in Malaysia, in Laos, in Cambodia, in Vietnam, they are also different versions of this great epic. So there is no end to the study of these folk epics, and our research, the minds of our researchers would be attracted to it for a long time to come. So then in this connection, I will just give a picture of the Ramayana tradition in Assam. This is very important. Assamese is a very, very well-known language, and it has been included in the 8th schedule. But still, the Ramayana has been sung in other unrecognized languages in Assam. There are so many ethnic communities in Assam, amongst whom we can say the existence of this epic, amongst the Rabhas, the Deoris, the Hazong, the Podo, the Dimasa, the Karbi, the Misings, the Tiwas, and the Lalums. All these different ethnic communities have been singing the Ramayana story for a long time. Assam came into contact with Hinduism in the 13th century, in the 14th century, and the Hinduism can be praised, can be said, people can embrace Hinduism. I think in the Northeast, Hinduism was given to the people, so especially through these two epics. The case of this is very true in the case of Assam. So we had the Ramayana was translated into Assamese language by Madhava Kundali, and that was in the 14th century. In the 14th century, this was translated into Assamese language, and with that, you say Assamese culture was completely changed. We can see that if we study Assamese literature, the early part of Assamese literature is nothing but the rewriting of the Ramayana, and especially the Ramayana, and also the Mahabharata. If we read Assamese literature, all Assamese literature, it is everything is the Ramayana, and everything is the Mahabharata, especially the first one. So it is very important for the Northeastern people that the role played by these two epics cannot be ignored by anybody. Assamese life and the social and the cultural functions and activities are so much remolded by these epic traditions. By these epic traditions, the Ramayana is very explicit in their social customs, cultural performances, literary activities. And among the Rabha community, it is believed that Dasharatha was the follower of Shes Rabha. The Ramayana characters appear in the Rabha folk songs, mantras, and beliefs. All over Assam, the marriage songs are sung in which the bride and the bridegroom are likened to Sita and Rama. And the names of Ajodhya and Mithila mythicize that the bride is brought to Rama's place from Mithila. This is a belief in Assam. The ritual of the bride and the bridegroom is also reflected with the banishment of Rama and Sita, the cruelty of Kaikeyi, the sorrows of Dasharatha, the abduction of Sita. These are everywhere. These motifs are seen in Assamese folk songs and then folk tales even. And during Durga Puja, many devotional songs are sung in Assam in praise of Goddess. Another method that gives the Ramayana tradition still alive. So amongst the Karbis, we see there is a tradition that is called Ozapali. This is also a singing practice of the Ramayana in the Karbi community. Sculptor, wood carving, stone carvings, paintings, clay images of Rama, Sita, Lakshman, Hanuman in some temples and localities are other forms of art that keep the Ramayana tradition alive in Assam. Therefore, this is very important. When there was a polar workshop in Mysore under the auspices of CIL, that was in the last part of 1980s and the early part of 1990s. One American folklorist, Peter J. Close, laments the lack of focus in research on the Sanskrit epics, especially the myriad of versions of these two epics. But perhaps he did not know the existence of various forms of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata in the Northeast. If he knew this fact, he would not have written that. And the same on smaller scale, the Ramayana tradition is found in Tripura, in Mizoram, and also Meghalaya. So I do not want to give extensive lecture on this, and then I will just say a few more words on these two epics in Manipuri society. We have already.
Sir, another 2 minutes. Sir.
Yeah, no, I will take a few minutes more because it is very important. Otherwise, you said meeting here, coming from different places, and for 10 minutes or so, that is quite, you say, fruitless for all of us.
Let us make it.
Yes. So, in our case, the advent of Hinduism was in the 18th century, and the imposition of this religion was done by the then King Garibaniwas, and he knew that people resented that attempt and revolted against him, although they could not do that openly. Therefore, he asked his one Pandit from Sylhet to write a different version of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and that was successfully done, and the creation myth was also newly formed by him in his book Pansali. And there it is written that Arjuna came to Manipur and he married the daughter of King Chitrabhanu. The name of this, the daughter's name is Chitrangada. Chitrangada has been very important in our culture, in Bengal culture, because Rabindranath Tagore thought that as a true story, and he constructed a new story about Chitrangada myth. And so this is, and Arjuna came and then he married Chitrangada, and their first son, that is Raghubahan, became the king of Manipur. This was in fact a fabricated story, and that was believed by us for centuries. Only very recently we have come to know that these are all not facts, yet they are false stories. So what I would like to say is that by this method and other methods, the Ramayana was again written by one person at the instance of the king, and after the publication, after writing this book, many people embraced Hinduism. And so many temples were erected in the name of the Rama temples were erected in Manipur, and that you see changed the whole structure of our society, because many of the people who were very skeptical about this religion, they now became devotees of Rama, Sita, and Hanuman. Hanuman temple is there in the very heart of our city, and many other Rama temples are there, and they have been instrumental in changing the minds and the hearts of thousands of people of Manipur. Therefore, what I want to say is that these epics have a very, very different purpose in the case of Manipur. And then one king that is called Baigasandra, he again brought one storyteller from Assam, and then he was narrating the stories of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and through the stories of these two epics, the whole people of Manipur became, say Hindus. We can say, except a few. So this is what I would like to emphasize here. And what is the, I would like to make 2 points here, very important 2 points. They are, one is the implication was partisan that soon the epics, these two epics could effect Indianization of Manipur people on a grand scale. The stories from the epics have been once more homespun. The characters like Bhima, Arjuna, Yudhishthira, Parikshit, Hanuman, Sita are dressed in Manipuri customs and traditions for fuller participation of the public. For instance, the herb to save the life of Lakshman has a Manipuri connection. Hanuman, unable to identify the herb, lifted a hill from Manipur to take to Lanka to save Lakshman. That kind of say, different version is there in Manipur. So people are very happy because Hanuman came here and he took a hill from here to save the life of this Lakshman. Okay, these stories are localized in Manipur, and now people do not think that these are impositions from outside and these are alien stories. That is one important thing, and another thing is that this is a method by which we can see impose that India is a vast country, a country of so many religions and cultures, and through these epics we can see unity in diversity. That is one great effect that has been given by these two epics. So this is these are some of the things. Should I continue or should I stop? So, so I have. What?
Time is more important.
Okay, that is fine. That's fine. But we are given 1 hour and say I do not get more than no. It's okay. I'm not arguing.
Next one, please. We have given much justice to you given by 27 minutes. Neither me or Nagmani sir will take that much time. But we consider as our esteemed professor, we have conducted research as well. Therefore, use relevance is highly appreciated. Professor Nagmani sir.
Namaskar. Honorable Chair, Professor Mahendra Kumar Mishraji, Professor Mani Medisa, distinguished scholars and friends. My paper is on Mahabharata traditions of the Adivasis of Telangana. How the great epics of Indian tradition, the Ramayana and Mahabharata, have incited and interlaced and woven themselves with the existential fabric of the Adivasis has been a great subject of endless scholarly study. So one can discern from these studies that over centuries, there have often been many small or big additions or reincorporations into a particular tribe's original adaptation of or retelling of the Mahabharata or Ramayana epic. It has been a very layered history. In the process, we find that the traditional definitional differences or distinctions between epic and mythology collapse in the context of Adivasi adaptations of Ramayana and Mahabharata. It is a case of first a secondary or literary epic becoming a primary one, meaning losing the characteristics of an epic written and composed by a single author or a set of identifiable poets or composers, and becoming an oral composition redrafted from the perspectives of the ethos and mythological patterns of the particular tribe through an unconscious process by many anonymous composers. This redrafted primary epic in the process also acquires many characteristics of a tribe's defining mythology, portraying and explaining the origins of the tribe, its geographical and technological history, its social structure, and the patterns of its ritual and cultural practices. So, in the Adivasi terrain, in the incorporation of an existing epic like the Mahabharata from the mainstream, we find a much more complex process than the mainstream patterns of the origins and a creation of a primary or secondary epic. In our northern Telangana, we find the Mahabharata tradition among three symbiotically coexisting Adivasi communities, Rajgons, Kolams, and Naikpods. The Rajgons have their own distinct narratives which have no connection with Mahabharata, which are the Rajgons have two body communities, Pardas and Totis. The Pardas and also the religious cultures of a much smaller and distinct tribe, the Kolams. For the Kolams, the Mahabharata is their primary or creation epic. The Telugu-speaking Naikpod tribe, who were a smaller community in Telangana, but are spread over large parts of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, have a far more significant and wider association with the Mahabharata and its leading characters. Korrajulu are their gods. As said earlier, irrespective of the specific Mahabharata versions of each tribe, there also exists a lot of overlap or intermixing between these three communities at the level of shared devotional beliefs and ritual and festive patterns owing to the harmonious symbiotic relationship in which they have existed for centuries. Indeed, it can be said that the Mahabharata and in particular the figure of Bhima are the basis of the remarkable tribal cohesion we see between these communities in Telangana. In the Gold and Kolam versions of Mahabharata, as told or sung by many individuals, men and women, the most significant difference we find in the plot is the positioning of Bhima as the youngest, the strongest, and the most adorable of 5 Pandavas. This is because in the original South Indian or a Dravidian scheme of kinship relations, a special affection is bequeathed on the youngest male child. He is pampered and often he has some special privileges or rights, especially in ancestral property. So Bhima had to become the youngest of the 5 brothers in Gond and Kolami version. And because of his strength and eminence, it is Bhima who gets the royal crown once the Pandavas return to their kingdom after their long years of Vanavasa and their victory in the great battle with the Kauravas. In the specifically Kolam version, Bhima or Bhimanna is their primary god. During Vanavasa, he marries a Kolam girl, Idumal Devi, that is Idimba, to whom is born Ghatotkacha. When Bhima, along with the Pandavas, sets on returning to their kingdom, Idumal Devi and Ghatotkacha entreated him not to sever his long and intimate relationship with their community and leave. In answer, Bhima tells them not to worry and that he would always be available to them at their beck and call in case of difficulties and misfortune and help and save them. In Kolami language, Bhima is called as Ayu or Ayak. a father figure. The memory of the Vanavasa of the Pandavas and Bhima's association with their community is thus remembered in the form of Ayak deity, and the connection is revived annually through his festival observed in the month of December. This is a special, there is a special canto in the Gond Mahabharata which describes in great detail the transformation of the Gond and Kwalami tribes from purely hunting and foraging communities to partially agricultural or farming communities. During the Vanavasa, Bhima sows some millet seeds which he had managed to obtain from his elder aunt Gandhari, the wife of blind king Dhritarashtra, before he and the rest of Pandavas along with Draupadi set on their Vanavasa. This canto is called the Sama Bhada Bidi. Sama is little millet and Bhadi is foxtail millet. The forest land gives an enormously bumper crop to the Pandavas, and they save it in huge granaries for the not far of a great battle with Kauravas. The forest living communities acquire the skill of agriculture from Bhima. A historical transformation which gave them a far greater food security is thus ascribed to the mythical figure of Bhima. A cursory investigation reveals that none of the many versions, including women's songs of Mahabharata, are episodes of from it existing among these Adivasi communities in the two Telugu states have been thoroughly researched or recorded, and certainly none of them have been transcribed and published. I had to therefore depend on oral conversations with individuals, including professional bards, to get some idea of the unique form and terms the epic has taken in their retelling. In the Toti version of Mahabharata, as told by Srimati Amarskola Kalavati of Tosham village in Adilabad district, Bhima is the middle child of Pandavas, not the second one, as the mainstream, as in the mainstream versions are the youngest in the many songs and the oral tellings of Adivasis. To begin with, noticing the sterling capabilities and oral qualities of Pandava brothers, Lord Shambhu or Shiva hands over the lordship of 5 elements as well as all the continents and kingdoms of the earth to them. While the Pandavas ably administer all the regions and countries under their rule, solving the problems of citizens in those lands, Dharmaraja has a dream in which he deserts the country, both the Pandaval Desha, in which lies Moti Pandaval kingdom, which is afflicted with severe drought and famine, and people are in great suffering. Dharmaraja then says to Bhima and others that it would be a grave sin if they don't go and solve their difficulties. Before venturing on the journey, the Pandavas go and visit their mother Kunti to take her blessings. When Kunti hears their plan, she prohibits them from taking up the journey. She tells them about the demon king Vidamba Deva and his 2 wives. The younger wife Rudravati is pregnant with the hungry demon Bakasura, who is praying for the blood and flesh of Pandavas so that he can take birth with the energy thus gained. It is for this reason Vidamba Devi is eagerly waiting for your visit, she tells them. Bhima then tells Kunti that he will go alone to the kingdom and help its citizens, and his 4 brothers could stay with Kunti. Dharmaraja then pleads with Kunti that they must go with Bhima to fulfill their royal duties. Kunti then calls Bhima and says, "You, the dark-skinned man, a strength personified, you alone can fight and vanquish the demons. So please take care and see that no harm is done to your brothers." Bhima promises to do so, and the 5 Pandavas leave for Moti Pandava kingdom. While Bhima walks ahead on foot, the other four Pandavas follow him on a chariot. En route is waiting a demon by name Urvasa Rakshasa, who has a huge mouth spanning earth and sky, waiting to gobble any being passing that way. On seeing the four brothers in chariot, Urvasa Rakshasa asks two of them to become his food and asks the other two to go and inform Kunti the fate of their brothers. On noticing that the chariot has stopped and his brothers have got down from it, Bhima realizes that they have walked into demon's mouth. Readying to battle with the demon, Bhima lifts the chariot and places it on a tree. In the ensuing fight, Bhima kills Urvasa Rakshasa and brings his severed head to Dharmaraja as a gift. On seeing the blood-soaked head, the weak-hearted Dharmaraja's throat and mouth go totally dry. He asks Bhima to fetch him some water and save his life. Bhima locates a well in the forest, but it is guarded by the mother of Vidamba Rakshasa and his sister Vidambi. Bhima performs certain rituals and battles and kills the old demoness, but while returning with water, he is accosted by Vidamba. When Bhima tries to kill her too, she asks him, "O fool, if you kill me, who will tell you the fate of your brothers?" "What about my brothers?" asks Bhima. "They have been captured by my brother Vidamba and imprisoned in his fort. He wishes to feed their flesh to his unborn child Bakasura," she tells him. Feeling thankful to her for informing about the whereabouts of his brothers and falling in love with her, Bhima weds Vidimba. Eventually, Vidimba gives birth to a valiant son, Gatvedasya. Bhima, helped by Gatvedasya, finally manages to kill Vidamba Deva. When Bhima tries to kill Bakasura by trampling on the womb of Rudravati, Bakasura warns him that this is unfair and that they can fight it out later. The four Pandava brothers are brought out of imprisonment. When the Pandavas ask Vidamba and Gatvedasya to come with them to their kingdom, the mother and son politely decline the offer, preferring to stay back in their forest world. Later, Gatvedasya gets married and to him is born a son, Ayu or Ayat, the progenitor of the Kolam tribe. It is obvious that owing to many displacements and disruptions in the traditional way of life, Kolams have lost an active memory of their mythological and epic heritage, and they in general conflate the Bhima and Ayu figures. The Telugu-speaking Nayak have a much stronger relationship with the Mahabharata and the Pandavas, though there is no lineage connection between them and any of the Pandavas. In the Mahabharata version narrated to them by their bards, the Nayak are described as a community of faithfuls who accompanied Pandavas when they set out for Indraprastha for 12 years of Vanvasa and 1 year of Ajnatavasa. For the Nayak the 5 Pandava brothers are their primary deities, and they have numerous forest shrines, caves, hills, valleys, and lakes associated with one or other of them. One major variation in the Nayak Mahabharata is the existence of Lakshmi Deva, who is a sister of Pandavas, the younger to them all. In the great Mahabharata war, she loses her life waging a furious battle on behalf of her brothers. However, she is brought back to life by affixing the head of a horse to her torso. On most ritual occasions, a set of Nayak wear highly colorful and ornately painted wooden masks symbolizing the Pandava brothers and the horse-headed Lakshmi Deva, dancing with great frenzy along with the rest of the devotees. As distinct from the Kolams, The Gonds have their own distinct mythology and epic proportion narratives which details their origin and creation of their clans and sub-clans and their geographical spread. Yet the Mahabharata and its characters are very dear to them, and a descendant relationship with either Dharmaraja or Bhima, and a common mythological relationship with the Pandavas along with Kolams is acknowledged. While the Gonds are both numerical and economically a stronger community than the Kolams, the Gonds recognize the Kolams are a more ancient community than them, owing to the special ability of Kolams to communicate with many visible spirits and many invisible spirits and magically tame them. The Gonds call them Kolams as Pujaris. The origin of this special skill is ascribed to Bhima, and the episode of him praying at the well in the forest and bringing the life-giving water to Dharmaraja in the Mahabharata tale as mentioned earlier. The annual festival of Bhimanna or Ayak is celebrated in the month of Pushmi or December or January every year. While the Kolams and Naipods have generally separate shrines, all the three tribes participate in Aduras and drawn out pilgrimages associated with the various shrines. The relationship between Kolams, Gods becomes much closer during these pilgrimages, with the traveling icon of Bhimanna visiting many Gond and Kolam villages and individual homes too. The Mahabharata epic, with all the transformation it has undergone, and at the hands of three Adivasi communities in Adilabad, yet stands out as a cultural unifier and is the basis of the tribal cohesion and harmonious coexistence. The number of people named after the characters of in Mahabharata in the three tribes is an indication of the deep loving relationship they feel them. In the light of this, there is an argument need to document numerous versions of episodic variations of Mahabharata found in Adivasi communities of Telangana. It would be a worthy addition to the great complex of Mahabharata studies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nagamal Shara. You have made a very good field work. And the one important thing is that you, in oral epics collection, you go to the particular tribe and do your particular field work. But it is one aspect where 2 to 3 tribes meeting together and worshipping Bhima god, the rain god, for their agricultural work. So in Madhya Bharat and Andhra and Telangana, where the Gond predominance is there will find Mahadeva as the supreme god and Bhima as the servant. And in Odisha there are 12 Bhima. Himachal Pradesh there are 12 Bhima. And in Middle India, Gadha Mandala, there are 12 Bhimas. Because of wherever the Gond community is there, Dravidian Gond community is there, they used to say that Mahadeva is Shiva, and he has 2 sons, one is Gono and the other is Skanda. From the Gono, Ganesha, all the Gond people have emerged in Maharashtra, Odisha and all that. And Kandha, that is Skanda, Kartikeyan, Murugan. From this Kandha, Kartikeyan, all the Gond people have emerged. So these are the ideas that they have really given in the thought. And here I just want to conclude in 2 to 3 minutes. So people construct knowledge, people create their worldview with their own circumstances, and their nature, their economic sustainability, their society, and their coexistence of clans and the caste and tribes really determines their nature of identity, power, and survival. That's the most important point. So each and every community has its own identity, but they want to construct another identity with a group of people, then comes a national identity. So myth and epics, these are regulator of identity. So like what this Maitreyi told, when the Ramayana and Mahabharata went to Manipur, the whole tribal culture was eroded, and over a period of 500 to 600 years, the Govinda temple, Jagannath temple, Vishnu Puriya, so many people came, and Manipur became the land of Sri Krishna and Rama. And the other kings were also patronized. So there is a symbiotic relationship between the king and the dharma and the temple. Whereas there is a palace, there is a temple, and there is priests, and the priests, kings, and temple and the palace constitute the symbol of kingship in the whole country and also in Europe. So this is the legitimation of myth and story. So each and every part of the world, whether it is a mountain or a river or a temple or a place or a village, you will get hundreds of such stories called legends and myths and epics. But epics are the most dying genre. It is it is very difficult to find 80 years old people will really to tell you the story of 1920s. In Odisha also there was a long epics in 1920s, 1960s. Pandit Nilakanta found them in Gadjat, Hindol. When he was traveling to Hindol, Gadjat, he found two epic singers singing Brahma Veena. But now we are losing them, and in most part of the wherever there are some tribal communities, there is a solidarity. They are not exposed to the external world, civilized world. They are singing it. But time was there when the kings and jamidars were giving good money, jameen, गाय सोना ये सब देते थे. आजकल वो जो गायकी जाति है, उसी गायकी जाति को पैसा देने के लिए उनके मालिक भी कभी आजकल कतरा रहे हैं. Therefore the singers are in a very precarious condition. कोई साइकिल फिटर हो रहा है, कोई पकौड़ी का दुकान देता है, ऐसे हालत है. So these all are the things of the subjective and objective reality of the literature, where when you become subjective, you see the imagination, fantasy, myth, and all that. When you become objective, you see the reality. But the whole human literature is a blend of the two. Now, look at this point of time in India, when we ask that how human mind is influenced by the mythology or the mythic character. It is well understood to you by Rama, Krishna, and Shiva are three main characters in India. One cannot remove them from the subconscious of the country, people. At the same time, when Buddha was here, and after 2005 years, where is Buddha? You ask anybody who is Buddha, people will not be able to say, like the Rama, Krishna, and Shiva. That is the main issue here. The issue is that it is not understood how Rama, Krishna, and Shiva become three black gods, not white gods, became the hero of this country. God, hero, and lover, everybody, and a diplomatic and war lover and manager of wars, and also writing philosophy in poetry. Very interesting. Our philosophy is written in poetry. So these are the beauties and the multiple interpretation of Indian story. One small thing I'm telling you, and I'll end it because of, unless I give you a very good small example, the beauty of oral epics will not be complete. एक बार राम लक्ष्मण और सीता बैगा गांव को गए थे. In Middle India, they went to बैगा गांव. वहां रहे वो लोग, 3 लोग. रहने के बाद लक्ष्मण क्या करता था? एक बहुत अच्छा सारंगी बजाता था. किकरी कहते हैं उसको, सारंगी बजाता था. तो स्वर्ग की इंद्र कामिनी उसी सारंगी की बातों को सुनकर उसके प्यार में आ गई. But she went to लक्ष्मण और बोला मैं आपसे प्यार करती हूँ. लक्ष्मण बोला नहीं मैं महान जाति हूँ, मैं ब्रह्मचारी हूँ, आप मेरे से ऐसे बात मत कहो, भागो यहाँ से. जैसे शूर्पणखा को भगाए थे, इसको भी भगा दिए. ये भागी, लेकिन उसका बहुत अभिमान हुई. तो द नेक्स्ट मॉर्निंग सीता जब लक्ष्मण की गुड़िया को जाके साफ सुथरा कर रहे हैं, लक्ष्मण की कपड़े में कुछ टूटा हुआ चूड़ी और कानफूल मिला. तो सीता उसी कानफूल और चूड़ी को लेकर राम को दिया और बोला कि ये लक्ष्मण की बेडरूम से मिला है। तो रामा वाज वेरी सीरियस। वो गांव का सारे लोगों को मीटिंग में बुलाया, बैगा लोगों को, और बोला कि ये कौन है जो कि लक्ष्मण के पास आज रात आई थी, तो सेट करो कि ये चूड़ी किसका है और कानफुल किसका है। तो गांव के सारे लड़की लोगों को टेस्ट किया गया कि कानफुल किसमें लगता है, चूड़ी फिट होता है कि नहीं। किसी के साथ वो चूड़ी कानफुल फिट नहीं हुआ। फिर गांव का मुखिया बोला अभी एक आदमी बाकी है, वो सीता है। तो सीता के साथ जब कानफुल और चूड़ी को टेस्ट करा गया वो सही निकला। तो गांव का मुखिया बोला अभी तो लक्ष्मण को टेस्ट देना होगा। हमारा आर्य समाज के होते तो सीता को तीसरी बार अग्नि परीक्षा करा देते, लेकिन आदिवासी सोसाइटी में क्या किए, लक्ष्मण का अग्नि परीक्षा देना होगा, सीता को नहीं। लक्ष्मण 2 बार अग्नि परीक्षा दिया और पास आउट हुआ। उसी बाद सबको उसी दिन से लक्ष्मण को लक्ष्मण जति बोलने लगे और लक्ष्मण का पूजा करने लगे। और ये गीत कौन गाता है, जो बैगा समुदाय की जो सिंगर कम्युनिटी है, जो गीत गाते हैं नृत्या, उन लोग खुद को लक्ष्मण का वंशज मानते हैं। उड़ीसा में जो लक्ष्मी की पूजा करते हैं उसको देवगुरु बृहस्पति कहते हैं, देवगुरु कहते हैं। उनका कहना है कि ये ब्रह्म वीणा हमको बृहस्पति दिया है, और हम इसको गाते हैं नवरंगपुर में, कलांडी में, पश्चिम उड़ीसा में। There are many such stories that it clearly breaks the written and oral. जो क्लासिक है, फोक है, रिटन है, ओरल है, कुछ नहीं है, इंडिया वन है। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you very much, sir. And I'd like to thank you and both the panelists also on behalf of Sahitya Akademi. We'll now take a short lunch break. Our next session will begin at 2:30. So if you will arrive just 5 minutes before 2:30, we will continue with that and stay with our timing. Thank you very much.